welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to another tutorial. It's me, IG, and I'm back with a new tutorial. If today is your first time of stopping by, you are highly welcome. You are on the right channel. My old and new subscribers, you guys are amazing. Guys, today's tutorial is this trending off-shoulder top with bra cup. That is what we are going to DIY. As you can see, it is right there on the screen. It is so simple to achieve. I want us to use our already drafted corset cup to achieve this project. I've made series of videos on how to draft a corset cup. It is so easy. I'm going to link it in the description box below for you guys to check it out. I don't want this video to be too long. That is why we are going to use the one that we have already drafted to achieve it. If you have not known it, please check out the video. You will understand it. It's simple and you will achieve yours before achieving this particular project. You can equally use a ready-made bra cup that you can buy in the market to achieve it, but I want us to DIY our own cup so that if you can't buy it, you can easily achieve it with your own pattern. So that is why we are going to use this already drafted cup. It is here before me, the panels. This is the panels, and the one you are going to use that will be okay, that will be fitted for this project, is the one with 3 panels. I've made a tutorial on how to achieve a cup with 2 panels. This is the one with 3 panels. This is the one that you are going to check out. It's on one video and also the other video. You will check it out. It's so easy to achieve it. So you're going to use the one that has these 3 panels. This is the one that fits this project we are making. So now these are the panels. As you can see, I've cut it out. I've added 1/2 inch. Remember to add 1/2 inch all over. I've added 1/2 inch, and also this is the lining. I cut the material and the lining is the same material. This material is the material that I'm going to use to work on this project. So I'm using it also as the lining. So I've cut it out, and I've also made the bra cup. I've also made the bra cup ready. Do you see how beautiful it is? But I'm going to use this lining to show to you guys how you can achieve it. It's so simple. Just take your panels. Remember, this is this panel that is on the center front, and this is the one that is on the side, and this is the upper one that covers the bust. So now you take your panel, that is this, you take one of this and you take one of this, you merge it together. Do you see it? Then you sew on it with your 1/2 inch seam allowance that you left. But I'm going to use pin to hold it now to show to you guys how you can achieve the cup. It's so easy. Do you see the bra cup? This is the bra cup, the first one. Then after that, you use your bias. You use your bias to cover up here that you join it. That is this that you are now seeing, to cover it up here. Do you see it? You sew it in 2. You sew on one side and you sew on this side again to make it to lap smoothly. So you run 2 stitches on it. That is this. Do you see it? After which, let me cut it out. So you sew on it. Let me use pin to hold it for us to see. Do you see it? So now you now stitch it here and also on this side. Do you see it? After you finish, then you now take the upper one, which is this. That is one of these. You take it. Make sure you are matching it together. Then you now place it. I'm also going to match it. Then you now sew it together. Do you see it? Do you see it, guys? After you have finished sewing it, do you see how it's going to be? Then you now take your bias again and you place on the area that you sew to cover it up. Do you see it? You place on it, then you have this. Do you see it? Then you will now have this. When you now place it, then you also sew it in 2 places. But remember, when you sew, try to cut here open, that is to notch. Try to notch these areas so that it will be smooth. Then you now turn it, then you use your bias to now cover it up. That is the way I now got this. So guys, let us now draft our panel. So when you have achieved your cup, then you will now draft the panel of this project we are making if you don't have the already made cup. So now guys, so what you have to do, look at my panel here, my drafting paper. As you can see, I've already marked the measurement. I'm going to start from the upper side. I want the off shoulder to start from 6 inches. I'm going to place my 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches to turn the lining to it. So now this 8 inches from the upper to 8 inches is my chest measurement, 10 inches is my bust measurement, 14 under bust, 16.5 waist. The length of the top we are making is 22 plus 1 inch seam allowance. Do you see it? After which I take my tape out, I make it into a straight line. And after that, I now take my cup. This is my cup. The cup you are going to take is the one that comes on the left hand side. That is the cup because of the way you placed your paper. So now from the under bust, I'm going to place my cup. So before placing it, I'm going to take my tape back. Now on the bust point, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. Do you see it? And on the chest line, I'm also going to go in by 1/2 inch. That is the space between the 2 busts. That is what we are trying to create. Then we make it into a straight line. Do you see it? You made it into a straight line. Then after then, you take your cup. Then from that 1/2 inch, you now place your cup. Then on the under bust, you now come up by 1/4 inch. Don't place it exactly at the under bust. Come up by 1/4 inch. That is here now is my 1/4 inch. And remember, the tip of your cup has to come to the after the 1/2 inch. Do you see it? Then from that point after the 1/2 inch, then you now make your line. But before then, come up from the bust point, go up by 1 inch. Just depending on how deep you want it to be. If you want it to cover up a little bit your bust, then go up by 1 inch. But if you want it to start from your bust point that you want to show, you maintain the bust point. But I want to come up by 1 inch, so I'm going to go up by 1 inch to cover up. So now I place my cup. Do you see how I place my cup? From the 1/2 inch, I place my cup there. Then I have to now trace my cup. Then I trace it. Do you see it? I now trace it in this form with my marker. I trace it to join the chest line. I trace it and I join it to the chest line. Do you see it here? I join it. Then on this side, I also trace it to cover up the upper bust. I now trace it following my bust cup. Do you see it? Then after that, I now take away my cup. Do you see it? So this is the cup area where the cup is going to be when you cut it out. So the next thing to do now is to insert our measurements. So now the chest we are working with, that is the bust we are working with, is 38. Divide it by 4. You are going to have 9.5. So we are going to mark at 9.5 here. 9.5, then we are going to add 1.5 inch. 1.5 inch is going to be 11 inches. Do you see it? That is our seam allowance. And on the waist, if you are working with your under bust, you also measure your under bust and you insert the measurement. But I'm working with my waist because when I curve it, my under bust is going to come in. So now the waist I'm working with is 34. Divide it by 4. is going to give me 8.5. Here is my 8.5, and I add extra 1.5 inch. And the waist and the hip I'm working with is 40. 40 divided by 4 is 10. Then I'll add 1.5 inch. Then I'll bring it down to the length, which is the allowance to turn it. Now it is 11.5. That is the allowance 1 inch. So now is to connect it together. So from the chest line, I connect to my waist. Do you see it? And on the, I turn my curve ruler to curve to the hip, and I bring it down to the length. Do you see it, guys? So simple. So on this point now, which is the armhole, I'm going to now use my armhole curve just from here to curve it to this chest line. Do you see it? And here I'm going to now come up to close it. Do you see it? So now this is our side, our armhole curve, and our top is ready. So when you look at the top, that we are working with, you will see that on this area it is curved. It is curved. It has a basquiat curve. So what you have to do on this waist side, go up by 5 inches or 4 inches, depending on how deep you want it to be. But I'm going to maintain the waist measurement. From this, my waist measurement, I'm going to come down by 3 inches. From my waist measurement, I come back down by 3 inches. Then I now use my ruler to now curve it. Do you see it? Do you see it, guys? So this is the way we are going to cut it out. I came down by 3 inches from my waist measurement. Then I curve it here. Our panels are ready. So now, guys, I'm going to cut it out. This is the panel that we are going to use to cut out our material. But before then, let us draft the back panel. The back panel is very easy to draft. Just take your measurements also, the measurement you are working with. Remember, on the back panel, we don't need our bust. We needed is 8 inches, which is the chest measurement. That is the armhole measurement. The waist measurement, 16.5. The length, 22, plus the seam allowance, 23. That is what we need at the back. So now we make it into a straight line. Guys, do you see it? So we made it into a straight line. So now we are going to insert our measurements. The back panel, I want it to have a loop at the back. I want it to be a crisscross. I don't want it to have zip. So we are not going to add our zip allowance. But from the main measurement, that is from the normal measurement, we are going to reduce 1 inch. Why are we reducing 1 inch? Because we are going to use the loop to cover it up. So now, my main measurement, if I don't add my zip allowance, is going to be 4 inches. Using the nipple to nipple measurement is going to be 4 inches. But I'm not going to measure 4 inches because I'm going to take away 1 inch. So I'm going to put my tape at 3 inches. Do you see it? I'm going to put my tape at 3 inches because I'm taking away 1 inch because I want it to have a crisscross at the back. And this 1 inch, I'm going to add another ½ inch to it. This ½ inch I'm adding is the one to use to turn the lining. That is the seam allowance to add the loop is the ½ inch. So I'm going to take measurement of 3.5 inches at the back. Remember, there is no zip allowance, and we reduce our main measurement of nipple to nipple measurement to 3 inches. Then we added ½ inch for seam allowance to join the loop. So now we are going to give it a straight line. Do you see it? This is the straight line. So now we are going to also take it up. So now, guys, the next thing to do is to take our measurements, the actual measurements. So remember, we are working with 3.5. So on this waist, we are going to take ½ inch on both sides. And on the hip, we are going to come up by 2 inches from the hip area. Then on the chest line, we are going to come down by 1 inch. then we'll now connect it together. Remember, there is no zip allowance, and we reduced 1 inch from our main measurements because it's going to have loop. Loop is going to take the area of zip allowance. Do you see it? This is our dart at the back. So now we are going to take our measurements. So the measurement we are going to take here, this is 3.5. Remember, we are going to add our measurement, which is the waist is 8.5. That is here. Then we add this seam allowance 1 inch. That is the dart 1 inch plus extra 1.5 inch. On the waist, on the hip, we'll do the same. From here, which is 3.5 inch, we are going to take our measurement of 10 inches. 10 inches, and we add, there is nothing we are taking here, then we add 1.5 inch. Do you see it? And on the chest, we are going to also take our measurement 9.5, and we add 1.5 because nothing is going off also here, which is 11 inches. Then we'll now connect it together. This is the main measurement. This is the main measurement, and this is the seam allowance that we are adding to it. Do you see it, guys? So this is our measurement for the back. But because I want it to be exactly with that of the front, I'm going to take the front to place it, because I also want it to have curve at the back. So from this waistline, I'm going to come down also by 3 inches. 3 inches, then I'll use my ruler to connect it to this area. I want the same shape of the front to be to the back. But if you don't want the same shape, you will maintain your normal shape. So now I'm going to take this to get my actual measurement to rhyme with the front. So I'm going to place it here. Do you see it? I'm going to place it here. Do you see where I placed it? So that it's going to be the same on the side. I'm going to place it here. So on this upper side, I'm going to come down, because it's going to be also deep to connect to the armhole. So I'm going to come down by 1.5 inch. So I'm going to trace it. Do you see it? And remember, here we are going to now take our measurements. Remember, we are working with the same size of the front panel. So now we are going to take our measurements, and on this chest line, we come down by 1/2 inch to also mark the chest line. So the wideness at the back, we maintain our normal wideness at the back, which is 5 inches to do our opening. So here is our 5 inches. We now add 1 inch seam allowance, and from there we'll now connect it. Do you see it? We'll now connect it to the back. So this is what we are going to cut out to achieve our back panel. So now, guys, I have cut out our panels. Do you see it? Remember, on this front panel, you are going to add 1/2 inch on this area, so that you are going to use it to sew to the bra cup. And the back panel, this is the back panel where cut it. Remember your allowance, that is the dart. So we have cut it out. So now we are going to remove our panels, our draft, to now fix our material. We are going to start with the front. So just take your front panel, then keep it open. Do you see it? This is our front panel. We keep it open, then we take our cups, which we have already prepared. This is our cup. Then we place it in this form, guys. Do you see it? So simple. Do you see it? Remember, this top is going to have boning. boning is going to give you the snatch. So we are going to use boning on it. That is why it doesn't have a lot of allowances. We didn't cut it open. So now we are going to take it to the machine. What we are going to do first is to take our bias. Next thing to do is to sew our bias to it so that we can insert our boning to it. So now I'm going to place it here. Do you see it? I'm going to place here one bias. I'm going to sew on the two sides to insert my boning. When you are working with bias, please make sure you have the one that will contain your boning. With the boning, you will know the type of bias you are going to use. So you use the bias that is going to go with your boning. So now I'm going to take it to the machine to sew it. But before then, I'm going to mark the places that I'm going to sew. So now I'm going to fold it back so that it's going to be equal. That is why I want to mark. From here, I'm going to mark 2 inches. From this point, do you see it? I'm going to mark 2 inches. I want to get where to mark it correctly. So on this point, I'm going to mark 4 inches. So I will connect it together. I want it to be straight. That is why I'm doing this. So that it's going to guide me while sewing it. Do you see it? So this is where I'm going to place my bias. So while sewing, I would use this as a guide. And on this side, I'll do the same. I'll mark 4 inches. I'll mark 4 inches. And on this side, I'll also mark 2 inches on the down. Then I'll connect it. You see it? This will guide me. And also, I'm going to add another one. So I'm going to mark the areas that I'm going to add boning to now. So do you see? I have marked the areas that I'm going to attach my bias, including this center point. I'm going to also insert one on this center point. So this is I'm going to insert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bias on this front where I'm going to insert my loop. And on the back, I'm going to also take in the darts. Remember the darts? I'm going to take in the dart and also insert 2 bias also at the back to insert our boning. So guys, I'm going to do this now and we'll come back to fix our cup. Guys, this is our front panel. This is our front panel. Do you see the bias? I have added all of the bias that I want to add. Do you see it? So the next thing to do now is just to take our boning. But before taking our boning to fix, we are going to fix our cup. We are going to fix our cup. Do you see it? We are going to fix it in this form. Do you see it? We are going to fix our cup in this form. And this, guys, this is the back panel. I've also used our bias to run on it, making the space where we are going to insert our boning. This is it. Do you see how beautiful it is? So the next thing now is our crisscross at the back, and I've made my bias to be ready, which I'm going to use. I'm going to place 6 on this side and 6 on this side. That is the loop that we are going to achieve. Do you see it? I've made a well detailed tutorial on how to achieve this type of back panel. Please, you can check it out. It's very easy to achieve. And this is the one that is going to be at the middle so that the back is not going to be open. Do you see it? And these are the linings. I've also made the lining. I've also taken in the darts on the lining side. So I'm going to get the back panel ready, and also the front panel. I'm going to fix the cup. Then I will bring it back for us to insert our boning. Now guys, I have fixed our back panel, also the loop. Do you see it? I have fixed it. So the back panel is now ready, and also the bias to insert our boning. So the next thing to do now is to take our boning. This is the boning I'm going to use to insert it here. Do you see it? I've closed here with the lining. The upper part has been closed with the lining. So we are going to insert it. Do you see it? So when you insert it, you now cut it 1/2 inch here so that you can equally close it up. So you are going to cut it. So we are going to bring it out. So this is now our boning. Then we insert it inside. Do you see it? It has come to the edge because we have closed here. It's not going to come out. So on this side now, I'm going to bring it out a little bit to cut out 1/2 inch away. Do you see it? Now I'll push it in. So do you see it? So I have 1/2 inch here that will allow me to close up the down parts. Do you see it? So I'm going to insert it in all. I'm going to also insert on this and on other side of the panel. Then you can equally push it in this form to cut out your 1/2 inch. Then you push it back. Do you see it? So now I have done the back panel. So the back panel is now ready. Do you see it? This is the 1/2 inch that we are going to use to close the downside. So do you see it? After which I will press it. Give it a good press. Do you see it? And also I'm going to close it from the down. I'm going to bring it out on this side and I will use hemming gum. I will use hemming gum to close it up. I'll show it to you guys. And this is our front panel. Do you see our front panel? I've added all the bias. So now the next thing to do is to insert it. I've not closed the upper side, so I'm going to equally leave 1/2 inch on this upper side. And also on the cup area, I insert also bias. I'm going to also fix it bias. Front panel, do you see our front panel? So I'm going to now insert our boning to it. Do you see it? So I'll start with the middle. I've not closed the upper part, so I'm going to stop at 1/2 inch so that I can sew it. So now I'll stop at 1/2 inch here. Do you see it? So that I can sew it. And on this side I'll stop at 1/2 inch. So I'm going to now fix all. And while inserting it, make sure that this area that is curved is going to be in this form. Don't do it like this because it's going to affect the project you are making. Just put it in this form. The curved area has to be flat. So because I have joined the bias here, so I'm going to know where to stop. Do you see it? So I'm going to come out. Now guys, I have inserted all our boning to our bias. The casing we have done with our bias, I've inserted all the boning to it. Do you see how it is now? So the next thing to do is to take my lining. This is the lining. I'm going to take the lining. This is the lining to close it up. So the next thing to do now is to take my lining to close it up. So I'm going to close it in this form. I'm going to close it all through and I will leave one side open, which I'm going to use hemming gum to close before fixing it to the back panel. So I'm going to do that, give it a press, fix it to the back panel, and we'll now see how it looks before we now fix our sleeve. Now guys, this is our panel. This is the back panel. Do you see it? I have fixed it, the boning, and I've covered it. Do you see it? I've turned it. Do you see it? So neat. And also the side, like I told you guys, I'm going to close it with hemming gum. Do you see it? I folded it and I put it hemming gum. I did the same to this, and also on the front panel I've also inserted all the boning. I turn it with the lining. Do you see how beautiful it is? Do you see it? And also I close one side and I use the other side to bring it out, which is this side, and I use hemming gum also to close it. So the next thing to do now is just to attach the front and the back panel together. Do you see it? Just take your panels. Then we are going to take in our 1-inch seam allowance. Do you see it? And we now fix our sleeve. Then our top is ready. So I'm going to do it, close this side, and also attach the sleeve. The sleeve is just a puff sleeve. So I'm going to attach it and I'll show it to you guys. Now guys, this is our sleeve. Just to cut it out, I'm using the remaining materials that I have. Just fold it in two. Do you see it? Instead of folding it in two in this form again, I decided to fold it in diagonal form so that I can have more materials on the down part. So I'm going to fold it in diagonal form to have more materials because it's a balloon sleeve. Do you see it? So I decided to fold it in this form to have more volume at the down. So I'm going to take my tape now to measure. On this side, I'm going to measure 8 inches. Remember, I'm going to put it band. I'm going to measure 8 inches on the upper part. I'm going to measure 8 inches. So from here to here is my 8 inches. I'm going to rule it. Do you see it? I'm going to rule it. So now I measure the length. I'm going to use the full length that I have. So let me see what I have. I have 17 inches. I have 17 inches, or let me make use of 16 inches. So this is my 16 inches. So I'm going to cut it out now. So I made use of 16 inches, and on this side I made use of 8 inches. I'm going to fold it to put elastic on it. I'm going to make casing. I'm going to make casing on the upper part to insert elastic, and also on the down part I'm going to insert elastic because it is sort of balloon sleeve. So now guys, I'm going to cut it out, get it ready, then fix it to our top that we are making, and we'll now see the final outcome. And this is the top that we have just made. Do you see I've joined the front and the back together? So if you don't add it sleeve, it is also a tube top. Do you see it? If you decide not to add it a sleeve and add your loop at the back, do you see it? Then it now become a tube top. Then when you add it a sleeve, it now becomes the project that we are making. So I'm going to add it a sleeve, then we'll now see how it looks. Now guys, this is the final look of our top. So beautiful. If this tutorial has been helpful to you, don't forget to like and share my videos, and if you have not subscribed, kindly subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye.